All right, welcome to Geek Warning, a special bonus episode. I'm here with two people instrumental in the creation of Shimano's gravel focus range. That debuted a few years back, GRX. And now there are new things to talk about GRX. Well, to get to know the people that are going to be on this podcast, I'll get you both to introduce yourselves and what you do at Shimano.
I'm Dave Lawrence. I'm the Road and Gravel Product Manager for North America.
And I'm Nick Legan, the Road and Gravel Brand Manager for North America.
Thank you. And Nick, can you confirm how much Shimano is paying for this episode?
Close to $0.
Close to. Okay.
I mean, we did give you a t-shirt and a bandana.
That's true. I did make a comment. We're in Bend, Oregon. I did make a comment that my goal for being in Bend, Oregon was to leave here without a beer-themed t-shirt.
And we fixed that.
And so Nick made that impossible for me. It's very comfortable, so thank you.
You're welcome.
To be clear, this isn't sponsored content. I thought there's a lot of interesting things to talk about, and some people don't like to read the length that I go into on some of these things, and some people like to hear about them. So I figured let's record a podcast and dive into what's new and perhaps what isn't, and what hasn't been talked about so far. So, yeah, well, if you like pictures and you like words, check out escapecollective.com. There will be a full write-up on this. But, if you just want the podcast, you're at the right place. All right, let's start with the basics. We're looking at new GRX 12-speed, and at least for now, it's mechanical only. Yeah, there's no Di2 yet. All right, so when the previous GRX was released, it came with mechanical and Di2 options. Why just start with mechanical here?
Well, we couldn't do everything at the same time. We knew that going in, so we looked at where could we kind of impact the most people. And the reality is probably 75% of the gravel bikes out there are mechanical. So that's where we started. Of course, we will get to Di2, but in due time.
Okay. All right. 75% is mechanical. I mean, that's, I guess, yeah, you look at the market and what's being pushed in the market. I mean, there's a lot of electronic being pushed out there. That's a big number to think the market is. Like what informs that data? Is it mainly bike company demand, or where are you pulling that, I guess, 3/4 figure from?
It's by company demand. You know, it's our internal sales numbers. It's also looking at total global sales numbers as well.
And the competitive landscape.
Absolutely, yeah.
We can infer a lot.
Okay. All right. So as far as it's a full group set being announced, and there is only one full group set being announced. There are some parts in a lower end range, but it's an 800 series group set. So I guess that's a Shimano Ultegra or XT equivalent if you're comparing to road or mountain bike group sets. And then there are some 600 series parts, which we will cover briefly, that can be mixed and matched in. But let's get started. So talking about the 800 series, there are a few gearing options here. I guess more choice than people may expect. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so we have 3 distinct drivetrain personalities, we're calling them. They have names, as a matter of fact, not just alphanumeric indicators. We're calling them unstoppable, unbeatable, and undroppable. So the unstoppable range is a 1x with a 1051 cassette. That's going to sound familiar to mountain bikers who are on our Shimano drivetrains. The unbeatable is also a 1x option. That's with a 1045 cassette. And then we have our undroppable range, which is a 2x12 with something pretty similar, pretty close to its previous generation, its predecessor. That'll have a 4831 chainring combo, and then 1134 or 1136 cassette options.
Okay. All right. I've got some questions that I will get to that a bit later. But undroppable, so that's referring to that you've got that much faith in front shifting.
That it's actually there's some duality there. Actually, the name isn't just pulled out of thin air. I mean, we are referring, of course, to the fact that we have amazing front shifting. We're also talking about the fact that when you're in a group, you're less likely to get dropped or spun out because it does have a pretty high. It does skew to a top end of the speed range.
Okay. Have we let's talk about gear ratios now. So you've mentioned the cassette sizes. As far as one by goes, I mean, there's probably fewer chainring choices than I had assumed there would be. What are the options there?
Yeah, so in the 800 series, we offer, for our one by, we offer a 40 tooth and a 42 tooth. We can get to it later if you'd like, but I can also mention briefly that for the first time, we are offering a 38 tooth in the 600 series, so a slightly more affordable price point.
Yeah, so that's a steel chainring versus,
that's right.
Yep, a lighter weight aluminium.
Exactly.
Aluminum. Yep. Okay. And then the 2 by, there's more limited options there. There used to be, I guess, two 2 by options. Now there's, or maybe I'm mistaken on that.
Well, actually, if you look at the 600 series, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but the chainrings are a 4630, which is something that's carried over from the 11-speed generation. And then we have the 4831 chainrings in the 800 series. And those are fully intercompatible, so they use the same crank arm. In fact, the crank arm is it's exactly the same as the 11-speed era. So if you have a third-party power meter, you can just bolt up a set of new chainrings, whether that's 1 by or 2 by, and install a 12-speed group.
Yeah, but new chainrings are needed because we're talking about a new
different tooth profile.
Yep. Okay. I've got a question on that, which again I will get to. So okay, let's cover what isn't new. What parts are carrying over? We mentioned the crank arms. What else is carrying over?
There really isn't too much outside of the gear ratios that we're offering in the 1 by 1045 and the 1051. Those are mountain bike cassettes that we have already had available. Same with the chain. So the chain is a carryover, I guess you could say, from all our 12-speed groups between Dura-Ace Ultegra, XTR, XT, SLX, Diori. So it's nice that we have one like common chain. And then we share some cassettes in the 2 by. So you have Ultegra already had an 1134 cassette. We also make a Dura-Ace level if you want. We also make a 105 level, 1134 if you want.
Yeah.
And then there's an 1136, which is specific to kind of the GRX and 105.
Okay. And that was a pre-existing cassette released with 105 Di2.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. All right. I do have a question on that. So I guess at this point I'm going to get geekier. There is a warning there to listeners. But so looking at the range, there's the 1 by groups use effectively Shimano XT cassettes, as we just mentioned. The 11 to 34 is effectively an Ultegra, but you have options, price point higher or lower there. But that 11 to 36 tooth cassette, being 105, it loses the HG plus shifting. Can you explain HG plus?
Sure. It's actually was introduced on our mountain bike first with these cassettes 1045, 1051. It's basically what it's trying to do is, originally we had Hyperglide, which helped your inward shift. So there's ramps built into the cog and the teeth, and how the chain interfaces with the cogs and how it moves from cog to cog. Where it was kind of a weak point was the outward shift. It was kind of clunky. And so what we've done is
going to a harder gear.
Yeah. So we call an outward shift.
Sure.
It tended to be more clunky. And so we worked on changing the profile of the cogs so that it would do kind of both. It would do that smooth inward shift, and then it would do that a much smoother outward shift. Okay. And so that's what you see on the mountain bike 1 by cassettes. Like I said, they've been around for about 3 or 4 years. Then we launched it with Dura-Ace and Ultegra on the close gear ratio cassettes.
Okay. All right. And I mean, my understanding of it is a lot of that comes from the chain design with that sort of overlapping inner link profile. Can you explain that? I guess what that might look like to someone trying to visualize and what the advantage is there, or what the goal was with that chain design, that 12-speed chain design?
Well, the biggest thing is, we're designing around that interface with the cog tooth profile. So trying to explain it over over talking.
Yes.
Yes. Versus a visual.
Yes, lots of hand movements.
Yeah, lots of hand movements.
There's some scribbling on the table right now. And,
so basically, what you're doing is you're releasing from one cog to the next but still maintaining a connection between the two cogs. So you never have the chain off of a cog at any one time is really kind of what it boils down to. And then that chain profile is designed around that, but it's also designed around the 1x tooth profile of the chain rings. So we have the profile in the new chain rings, the new 1x chain rings, the 12-speed, holds the chain on much better than the 11-speed. We learned some things when we went to 12-speed mountain bike, and that's now all integrated into the GRX 1x chain rings as well.
Okay, so it's basically it's more tooth engagement at the front, and it's more tooth engagement in the cassette as well, in a sense. Like
yes.
there's always, regardless of whether it's an inner link or outer link, the chain is effectively engaged. Yeah. Okay. So in that case, what does it mean to not have HD plus in a cassette? It's a subtle change in the tooth profile? Is that it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And you have more money in your wallet.
More money in your wallet. What might a rider experience by having, say, a 105 cassette versus the Ultegra level cassette?
I mean, it's a subtle change. It really is. You might feel a little bit more of I don't want to say clunk, but that is generally the experience of kind of that outward shift in a standard HG, which is what 105 is. And like Nick mentioned, it is a cost-saving measure. So that's one of the ways that we're able to differentiate, kind of a 105 level cassette and an Ultegra level cassette.
Gotcha. Because it's like less machining on the tooth profile and that kind of thing. Okay.
Especially with a close gear step.
Gotcha.
A little more complicated, than it is with a nice wide cassette for 1x.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
But you can afford more coffee.
It's a good trade. And then HG plus on the mountain bike side, say people wanted to save some money with the GRX 1x options. I mean, it's the current cassettes are basically an XT. How low can you go in the mountain bike range before you lose that HG plus capability?
It's actually available in all of the mountain bike.
Right down to Dior.
All the way down to Dior.
Wow. Okay.
The one difference in Dior is you don't have an option for the 1045.
Okay.
It's just a 1051
Oh,
cassette.
Okay, so there's a 1045 option at SLX level then?
Correct.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
More options. All right.
Just to be clear, it is a little bit easier to manufacture when the wide gear steps.
Gotcha.
When you get into the close gear steps, it gets a little complicated.
Okay. All right. Sorry, roadies. And
it's still a very good cassette.
Yeah, cool. All right. Let's talk about the levers, the hoods. What's new here? What's changed? What's the same?
Well, our engineers spent a lot of time looking and considering the needs of the gravel rider, and the cockpit is one of those areas that is super important. I mean, we've all experienced it, and so when they were looking at what was arguably already a really great mechanical lever in our 11-speed series, we started to look at what are the trends, what's happening out in the market, and the biggest one is the proliferation of flared drop handlebars. It is the OE spec now. The default for a gravel bike is a flared bar of some degree. And so there was some improvement to be made. If you were doing a mega long ride or had hands that, maybe hadn't been riding much, you had a little bit of a pressure increase when you used the 11-speed era lever on especially a really drastically flared handlebar. And so the Japanese R&D team did some analysis and some market research and came up with some values that seemed like a nice middle range, and then have changed that lever. Basically, it's less square in cross section, it's more rounded off, and that just decreases pressure on the hand. So it increases surface area of your contact, and so it's a little bit more comfortable.
Okay. All right. And that doesn't have an impact on, say, riders with smaller hands at all?
No, in fact, it might even be better for riders with small hands, because I'm not sure if the circumference is any smaller, but the shape is rounder, which I think would probably help.
I haven't measured it, but it feels smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the blade is retained. It's essentially the same blade, but it's positioned a little bit differently. Still has the same anti-slip coating on it. and then the hood still received the nice ribbed texture on there, so that you're not slipping off the side of it as well.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And let's the flare that they were kind of designed around. I mean, they're optimized for flared handlebars.
Yeah. I think the range they looked at was like 12 to 16 degrees, something like that.
Yeah, those are, when you look at the complete bike spec, that was most common. Of course, they work great on like a 20-degree flare. Really fits nicely. And one of the other things we looked at is, not only the pressure points, but then kind of the bend of your wrist, the way it sits on the hood. Okay. So because it's designed to kind of mold to that flare, it also kind of brings the hood in ever so slightly, kind of road arrow-like, if you're trying to picture it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it also lets your wrist sit in a more natural position when you're kind of resting from the bar with your hand on the tops of the hoods.
Okay. All right. I guess people that have perhaps seen the previous 11-speed Di2 versions, they might have seen that version had like a change in the brake pivot point. And that was all around sort of optimizing leverage over the brake lever, was it? And I guess there's some constraints there when it comes to mechanical. Was that changed at all? Is that carried over? What's the story there?
It carries over. The biggest thing you saw with the Di2 lever is one, like you said, you have a lot more freedom because you don't have a shifting mechanism in there. But we felt that with the hood shape and those improvements, the pivot didn't really need to change.
Okay.
The blade shape, I think, really complements the stroke that it has right now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we rode it today, and yeah, I can't say I was feeling a lack of braking power or anything. So it works. All right. Speaking of, okay, I'm not going to miss them, but maybe some people might ask this question. No more inline brake lever option was mentioned today. Is that staying in the range?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but it's a continuing product. There's no changes to it at all, but it continues in the lineup.
In fact, you can even run those inline on your road bike if you have a round handlebar. I mean, it's compatible with Dura-Ace, Ultegra 105, and GRX. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
If you'd like to buy a few of them, Dave, we have some in stock.
I was gonna ask, like, what's the demand on those like?
It's it's very specific. I wouldn't say it's huge. Do not see too many complete bikes that way, but for certain riders, it seems to be popular.
Yeah, we actually have a sponsored athlete on the Great Divide right now, Jay Peterberry, who's running a set.
Okay.
He loves them. He runs well, he's on a pretty interesting hodgepodge, but he's running a GRX Di2 11-speed group set. He runs the inline sub levers, and then he puts an extra set of shifters there so he can shift from his aero bars. He can brake and shift from his tops or his hoods or his drops.
Interesting.
Pretty cool setup.
Okay, so proper endurance, bikepacking stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice to have options. Perhaps a touchy topic. Has anything?
All you, Dave.
Yeah. Has anything been done with the cable path out of the shifter, perhaps to help improve cable durability?
Actually, that is all you, Dave. I'm not sure.
We had made some changes to like the actual shifting cable, increase the durability at the head, where it kind of fits into the ST lever, and have not had any issues over the last probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay. All right. So if I guess like this is a question that applies to anyone with a Shimano road bike or gravel bike that's running mechanical, like what's the recommendation there? If they are having issues, you're saying that your latest cables are a solution?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And is that all ranges of cables, or is there a certain tier that they should spend up to get that sort of feature?
It should be on the kind of standard road setup.
Okay.
Our road cable kits.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So like that. Well, I don't even know what it's called. The polymer kind of cable, is it?
Yes.
So anything above the stainless steel cable, basically.
Well, you got us there because
Sorry,
we have not talked mechanical in such a long time that
Sorry,
we're
this is a question outside of what we discussed today, so it probably not top of
not
mind.
At all.
But yeah,
it's a good question, and like I said, for me, it's based on like the feedback we get from the market, and this has not been an issue probably in I'd say 3 or 4 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So use different cables and problem might go away.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm even guilty of that. I might need to try change the cables I have in stock and check this out. So, all right. Let's move away from the shifters. Actually, let's stay with the shifters because there is a 600 series shifter.
Mm-hmm.
That is a carryover product in essence from previous GRX.
Basically, I mean, of course, it's gone to the 12 speed.
It's got an extra click in it.
It's got an extra click. Yes.
Yeah.
What we did do is we added that same texture that you get on the 8 series onto this hood. And then
it's got that ribbed kind of grippy hood.
Grippy thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that wasn't available in the 11 speed version.
Mm-hmm.
But the hood shape is the same as the 11 speed version.
Okay. All right. And so there's a chance to like get the new hood, put it on your old shifter, perhaps.
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be a nice little upgrade. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that 600 series, otherwise, as far as things you lose the servo wave technology and the hydraulic disc brakes.
Yes.
Anything else you lose?
No dropper post.
Okay. All right. So dropper post, that's an option in the 800 series lever. There's 3 different left-hand levers. Can you tell me about those?
Sure. So there's just a standard 2x, which will shift the front derailleur.
Mm-hmm.
And then we make a brake lever. So there's no side-to-side movement. But then we make we actually call it an ST when you look at the model number, and it will actuate a dropper post. So it doesn't have the kind of click that you would get in a shifter, but it's just kind of spring-loaded and will actuate a dropper post.
Yep, like a cable actuator dropper post.
Yep.
And I guess there's some tricky things to consider there, which is you need the dropper post to be able to connect the cable at the dropper post end because the shifter that lever holds the cable head at its end. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And then you change the pull ratio to make it more compatible?
Yes. So we actually added a little bit more cable pull to make it compatible with just about everything out there.
Yep. I think 10 mil is what I wrote down. Okay. So there you go. Nice little update there. Let's move back to the back of the bike again. I'm jumping around. The one by derailleur. This I actually really like. So the derailleur itself is effectively the same regardless of whether you use that 10 to 45 tooth or the 10 to 51 tooth cassette, but the cages are different. You've made the cages interchangeable, so you can swap between cage sizes. What's the difference between the cages?
So one you'll notice, the first thing you notice is the length.
Yeah.
Because of course you're going to need to take up more chain, but then the position of that top pulley and where it's oriented related to the cassette. They're different because of the size of the cassettes, the biggest cogs.
So that 10 to 45, I guess the GS,
the GS cage
derailleur, the shorter cage that puts that top pulley like more up and forward a bit, I guess.
Up and forward, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the SGS is the long cage for your 51 tooth cassette.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Kudos on making the derailleur that you can change a cage on. I mean, that's quite neat. And still Shadow Plus, still the same kind of clutch mechanism inside it with the on-off switch.
Yes.
Any changes to that?
No, basically the same. It mates up with like XT level.
Okay. Speaking of derailleurs, does the shifter pull match anything else in Shimano's lineup?
So it would match up with anything road specific. So when it comes to 12 speed, we're launching 105 mechanical.
Okay,
so
all right.
That is another option.
Is that coming out same time?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do we have time to even discuss what's happening there? Or
sure,
okay,
absolutely.
All right, we'll come back to that because that's new to me. And so the cable pulls are not the same as mountain bike.
Correct.
Okay, so you couldn't put a mountain bike derailleur with the new GRX. It's just not gonna.
It's not gonna match up.
Not gonna work well.
Yeah.
Okay. New wheels. What are we looking at?
Yeah, roundy bits.
Yeah.
So the new wheel is called the RX 880. We're not calling it a GRX wheel. It's a non-series or a Shimano branded wheel. But it does retain the same, in my opinion, amazing carbon fiber rim that we have on the previous gen GRX wheel. So that's a 25 mil internal width, a hooked bead, and then it has an
What a
all-new
novelty.
hub structure. Absolutely. An all-new hub structure that receives direct engagement, freehub structure that you'll have seen on XT, XTR, DuraAce. And then it has a Shimano First, which is interchangeable freehub bodies. So we have, for the same wheel, you can run it with a 1x or a 2x GRX drivetrain. And that'll use, of course, a micro spline freehub body if you're running a 1x.
1x, yep.
And then a Hyperglide or HG L2 splined freehub for your 2x. So that's an alloy freehub body. And in that case, both of those freehub bodies are 12-speed specific.
Okay.
And it's important to talk about these in very particular terms.
Yeah, please do.
The 2x cassettes, however, the 1134, the 1136 12-speed cassettes are reverse compatible, meaning you could put those on this new RX 880 wheel, or you could put those on, let's say you have an 11-speed era third-party hub, Shimano, NV, so on and so forth. So you
Pretty
can
standard freehub body.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can still upgrade your bike and your bling wheels with a 12-speed 2x.
Yep.
And then it's up to the wheel manufacturer to see if they have the ability to put a micro spline on that hub.
Yeah. So that HG L2, I mean, let's just stick with that for a second.
Sure.
That was introduced with DuraAce
That's
12
right.
speed. And the idea of it was basically to like prevent cog digging into lightweight freehub bodies.
I love the question because the why of these things is important to discuss, because we don't ever want to just create a new standard for the sake of a new standard or because it was easy for us. We're always thinking about the consumer, the bike shop mechanic, the OE customer. The why of Hyperglide L2 is a lighter freehub body and therefore a lighter wheel. That's what it comes down to. To go lighter than what we had previously made, predominantly in steel as a freehub body and sometimes in titanium at a DuraAce or XTR level, is to go aluminum. But when you make an aluminum freehub body, aluminum is, as a lot of people know, it's a softer material. And so we needed to increase the surface area in order to prevent cogs from digging into that freehub body to a point where they wouldn't pass our internal QC. So that's the why of Hyperglide L2.
Okay. All right. And so like to clear this up a bit, like so microspline started in mountain bike.
Yep.
It was designed specifically to allow a 10-tooth cog
Exactly.
fit on the freehub body. So it's kind of like a shortened freehub body. That's
It's kind of stubbier to create space for that smaller cog.
Overhangs it almost.
That's right.
And then the HGL2 is that one we just spoke about, which is that lighter version that I guess allows Shimano to use an aluminum
Right.
that's when in the US, that prevents digging in.
That's right.
And then, but yeah, most importantly to remember, and this is where people get very confused, is that all Shimano 12-speed road cassettes, which are applicable to GRX 2x drivetrains, are still backwards compatible with 11-speed freehub bodies.
You're nailing it, Dave.
Okay.
You're nailing it.
It's almost like I should do this as a job.
Almost.
Yeah.
And visually, the L2 has the same kind of overall length as an HG.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So dimensionally, it's kind of for a visual cue, if you have a quick reference, because they can be visually confusing because it has more splines, HGL2. So one could be mistakenly led to believe that that's a microspline. It is not.
Okay. It pains me, this topic, because I spent quite a while writing a very in-depth guide with actual photos and measurements on all of these standards and a really detailed guide.
Send me the link.
And now I'm just not going to mention it. Yeah. So anyway, so all we've talked about so far, 12-speed parts. What about options at lower price points with perhaps fewer gears? Does that carry on as a pre-existing product? Is there something new coming?
Yeah, so, one of the things that we have done with 12-speed is we've added some lower cost pieces. So it's not a full group, but what you may see on a complete bike is maybe an option for a lower cost shifter, the crank, same thing, might be a little bit lower cost, very nice. The brakes, it might be at a 400 level. It just helps bring the cost of the bike down.
Okay.
Performance is all, of course, very good.
Yeah.
And then looking backwards, 11-speed and 10-speed will continue.
Okay.
Of course, we're still making our 11-speed Di2 still available. And then as as kind of standard practice for us, even if something is no longer available as kind of an inline product, we continue to make it as a replacement product.
Okay.
So as time goes on, 11-speed cassettes, 11-speed chains, all those things.
Yeah, like what? I mean, this is a topic that I really should do. I mean, it's been on my list and it deserves a bigger conversation. So I'm not going to really get into it now. But what's the sort of time frame that you support those older, say, like 11-speed Di2 for? What, like internally, like is it? You hear companies talk about 5 years in market aftermarket or 8 years aftermarket. What's the Shimano policy for that?
Well, it's the minimum of whatever the warranty is, so last on sale date kind of thing. So like Dura-Ace is a 3-year warranty. Ultegra is a 2-year warranty.
Okay.
But we generally maintain that product for, 5 to 7 years. But if there's continued demand, we'll keep making it.
Gotcha.
We're still making, 10-speed road cassettes from 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Just because people are still looking to replace and there's business to be had there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and of course we want to satisfy that user.
Keep those bikes rolling. Yeah. Okay. If we've got time, I mean, I'd love to dive into quickly the 105 stuff and we'll cover that. I mean, we've kind of spoken a lot about technologies here, which I'm assuming overlap quite closely with 105. So what's the story with 105 mechanical?
So it was kind of an extension of 105 Di2 that we launched last year. And I know that was a big question, is road going away from mechanical shifting forever? And
it seemed like it. Yeah.
It seemed like it, yeah. But we knew it was coming. And of course, we could share common parts between the cassettes, the cranksets, the rotors, the brakes. And really, it was just developing new shift levers and front derailleur and rear derailleur. So because the global demand is still there, that price point is still, that has always been kind of that gateway to performance. And it's something we knew we needed to continue to make.
Okay. How different is that shifter from, say, the GRX 600 series? Like obviously the lever blade's going to be different, but like internally, is it the same? Is it even the same external structure?
It's actually a completely redesigned lever. And the biggest reason is with the 11-speed version, we had two versions of it. We had what we'd call a standard lever, standard reach, and then we made one for kind of a shorter reach in the lever. And honestly, we didn't get as much demand in the shorter reach as we thought we would.
That's a shame.
So to keep two separate SKUs was, a little bit of a burden. But then we dug into it deeper and we realized that we could take some of the learnings from GRX. GRX seems to handle, or that design was handling a smaller hand much better. Mm-hmm. So we've integrated some of that design into the new 105 mechanical. So we believe you should be able, big hand, small hand, with the new 105 12-speed, you should be able to find a good, comfortable position on that lever.
Still got things like lever reach in it and
exactly.
all that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is it servo wave?
105 is not.
It's not. Okay,
yeah, that's another kind of cost down.
Cost saving. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, those cassettes aren't the HG plus profiling. Okay.
Correct.
And still using same 12-speed chain carried over from mountain bike and shared with GRX, same brake rotors you mentioned. And those derailleurs, I mean, that's new. I assume no clutch in the rear derailleur?
No.
Okay.
But what did change is the addition of kind of a sub 1-to-1 gear ratio. So now we make the 1136 available in both the 105 Di2 as well as the new 105 mechanical.
Okay. All right. And just to confirm, people aren't necessarily getting slower. It's just tires are getting bigger, which means lower gearing is needed. So, Nick has thoughts.
Well, I would also argue that people are spinning more instead of grunting it out. So, and in some cases, they are getting slower. Like me. But no, I think it's a good point. I think that cadence awareness has grown, is what I would say, and we've certainly seen that. I mean, no one is asking. I shouldn't say no one. The World Tour is asking for bigger gears, and we're giving it to them. But beyond the World Tour, the very tippy top of the sport, no one is asking for a bigger gear. It is the outlier now.
Okay.
So sub 1-to-1 for road is a thing, and I mean we're happy to have it at 105.
So minor changes in the grand scheme of things to those derailleurs, I assume, like as perhaps a few new profiling to the cage to work better with 12 speed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Not a big changeover. I would say the lever, the hood and the lever interface is the biggest change.
Okay. Internally, did you have conversations about just keeping it to 11 speed?
We did, but we have some things on the horizon.
Okay.
That should fit in nicely.
Is that a cue? Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be here till tomorrow. I think I've broken Nick. I'm sorry, Nick. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's perhaps new things coming in the fewer gear range for a more affordable price points, perhaps.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. And I guess for yours, from your point of view, having a 105 mechanical 12 speed allows that crossover of components with the Di2 and with everything else. So I guess someone that gets the latest mechanical 105 bike could potentially upgrade their crank to an Ultegra or a Dura-Ace 12 speed and a cassette and
absolutely
up spec their mechanical.
I mean, really what this boils down to, Dave, is we listen to your podcast.
Thank you.
And we know that some of you really, really like mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
So we made it for you. We'll make sure you get a grip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I was angling at, really. That's great news. All right. So, yeah, I mean, almost time to wrap up. Di2, can you say anything?
We can say Di2.
Electrifying.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's, for us, that's an important market as well. We love all our gravel riders.
Okay.
No, and in the short term, the two will coexist, right? So 11-speed GRX Di2 will coexist with 12-speed mechanical. You can expect to see a lot of our sponsored or supported athletes still rocking Di2. They love it. It's battle tested. It's well loved. So yeah, but do know we are confirming that yes, we are going to make a 12-speed Di2.
Okay, all right, it's confirmed. Thank you for this. I was about to ask you if there's anything that you think I missed, but I did. I just realized I missed something, which was there are some updates to the brake calipers on GRX. What can you tell me there?
Well, we've actually got a couple things going on there. The first one is actually a rotor that we launched last year that kind of got lost in between Dura-Ace Ultegra and 105 Di2, and it's our new CL rotor. So we make a CL 900 and a CL 800, kind of Dura-Ace level and Ultegra GRX level. And the big thing there is this rotor, not only does it cool very well, but it doesn't deform under like really heavy braking, so you don't get any side-to-side movement. You don't get any noise. And then that kind of mates up with our new calipers where the pads are actually about 10% further apart. So the idea is we want to build a system that's absolutely quiet. So you match up the new CL rotor with the new caliper, and then of course we have a new pad compound for our resin pads, and you have got a pretty darn silent system.
Yeah, and those resin pads I'm out of date with them, but I mean you updated them sometime during COVID and claimed twice the durability.
Yes,
and then you've since updated them again, and I don't know how much more durable they are now, but they're more durable.
This is actually part of that original COVID durability.
Yeah,
we started on the mountain bike side, and then we've been kind of migrating it over to the road side.
Okay,
and gravel now.
The other thing worth noting is that GRX now receives the 800 series caliper, now receives the same bleed process that we've had on Dura-Ace, Ultegra 105, and even GRX Limited, which has been really well received because you're not trying to hold on to a tube injecting fluid into a system that is also the open close valve. So those are separated now, and it's something that mechanics have pretty roundly rejoiced.
Yeah, so you can still use a tube over the bleed nipple at the caliper, right?
That's right. It's just that the open close for the bleed process then is separated. Yep.
And you've also got a new bleed tool with a little needle that just game changer.
The new funnels too.
Yeah.
Big step forward.
Yeah. So and that new bleed syringe, I mean, it's been out a couple of years now, but it it works on everything that you've got on the market.
Worth having.
And it's definitely, no more mess. So
Tool nerds.
yeah. Shout out there. I had to get a tool in there. I mean,
I appreciate
wouldn't-
it.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else I missed?
No, I mean, I'm excited for some sweet skids tomorrow. Let's go ride some bikes.
Okay. I didn't know we were allowed to skid.
I'm allowed to skid.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nick, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And that's a wrap on this bonus episode of Geek Warning. If you liked what you heard, please send it to a fellow bike geek or perhaps just a friend with a clapped out group set. And if you want to see that group, then please head to scapecollective.com for my full write-up and early ride impressions. Until next time, cheers.